This is my homemade vise. I made, and I just out of the gate, I want you to know I made this with real simple tools. I mean, basically a drill, an angle grinder, and a cutoff drill, drill press, and a welder. Those were like the main tools that I used, and I used a stick welder because I wanted to dig in better. It can do MIG, but I did all stick welding on this. And you could probably get away with just using the drill and just using the angle grinder, but it was a lot easier using the cutoff saw, a metal cutoff saw, and the drill press to do some of the work. But I set out to make improvements on this, better than, or take some of the better features of different vices that I like and incorporate them into one vise. So this is all made out of pieces of steel too, and I pretty much did it on the cheap. I think I got about $50 into this thing, maybe 60, but I got very lucky with some of the stuff that I bought and some of the stuff that I had to use as parts, like this swivel base, for instance. That's off of a Yoast vise, and I just happened to have an extra one. That would be like $200, but if I hadn't had this wouldn't be a swivel base. It would just be a fixed base vise. But the main thing that I wanted to utilize on this was this pulls from the back. There's a piece of tube steel inside here, and it pulls from the center instead of pulling from a vise nut that has a twist on it. It's a straight pull, which Wiltons incorporate, and I like that feature. But I wanted to make it removable too, so that you could change or work on it if you wanted to. So that whole piece comes out. And I like having deep jaws. The vise has a set of, these are actually, I think, for a Wilton C2. It's a set of 5-inch jaws on that. And then the jaws, it's about 6 inches deep. And this will open to 8 inches with the nut still fully embedded. And it's got about 3 inches of engagement. And then same thing on the front. If you want to work on the lead screw or anything, you take these 4 bolts out and that whole piece comes out. And I use the thrust bearing here, so this spins real smooth and nice, and you can just open it up and close it. And I used a high thread. This is, I want to say it's 6 threads per inch, and you can really crank this thing. You can put a lot of pressure on this, but I made it this way so I could put a drill in here and open it up like that, real quick and easy like. So just a couple of things that I incorporated, but I also wanted to make, so this, you can take this nut out and this whole piece comes off for the lead screw to be exposed. And this is made, the base of it's tube steel, and then just pieces of steel that I got cut and welded to form the shape of it. The other, probably I would say, this is a prototype. I'm looking to do one twice this size, so 10-inch jaws, opens 16, 17 inches. I don't know if it'll be 12 inches deep, but it'll be a pretty deep set of jaws. And because of the way things are, this weighs 108 pounds. The one that's twice the size is probably going to weigh more like 400 or 500 pounds. But I just wanted to build the test vise to see how it all went. But this comes apart easily, so I'm going to take it apart and just show you all the pieces. And I do have a bunch of little bits on different parts of building this vise. And I just want to reiterate, I've seen some vices that were built that were really nice, but they were all built with custom machining equipment and stuff that I don't have, or most people don't have. This is built with simple tools that are not expensive and that are easy to come by for most people. All right, so here's the parts. This is the main, movable jaw. These were tapped, drilled and tapped. There's actually 2 pieces of 2 1/4 inch, one over the other, and then that's cut at a 45 and reinforced with this 1/2 inch plate. And then I cut a piece and welded it in here, and I drilled and tapped where the jaws went. So this piece here, the lead screw, goes in there, and that plate bolts up, so you can take that lead screw out. This spring keeps tension on it so that there isn't very much backlash when this turns, and I can unscrew this piece. I use that bolt to keep it locked on, but I can unscrew that if I need to mess with any of this stuff, or I could drive the pin out here and thread that all the way off, but it's easier to unscrew this. And there's, like I said, there's thrust bearings on either side, although the ones I used, I'm not sure if they're going to be strong enough or not. Like I said, this is just a prototype. This will develop a lot of crushing force. It's like a 1 1/4 inch lead screw, which is way oversized, but it is not an Acme thread. It's just a regular thread, which is not as ideal, but I was able to get the higher thread per inch count, which I like because I can really get a lot of force on those jaws. I think overall the weak point is probably right here. You know, this hindsight's 2020. This is 1/4 inch, so all the force is here, and I did this cut this way so that this piece of the jaw would support it as it opened outwards. But I think in retrospect it might have been better even to go this way with the reinforcing, so that the weaker part would have more reinforcement and just extend the bottom out to support the movable jaw as it goes outwards. So this piece bolts into the back. Now this part is threaded. This is what the lead screw threads into, and then it goes, you know, can go all the way in. But the advantage of that is when this is in here, it's pulling, all the force of the vise is pulling across the whole body of the vise evenly, which will allow it to really withstand a lot greater force. Now those bolts that hold it in, when it's going backwards, pushing outwards, that's what's pushing against the bolts, and so they don't need to be really that strong, but it's this whole plate against the rest of the body when you're crushing the vise together. And it's the same with this plate on the lead screw, which goes on the front. All the force is that way. The screws are only holding back when you're opening the vise. So it's, you know, designed to be strong one way but not the other. Now, like I said, this was all done with simple tools, and I realize that these aren't good welds. The jaws don't really line up as well as I'd like them to, so on the next one, you know, that's something that told me that I'm going to have to pay better attention to. But this was a prototype, so I would know what I needed to do better when I build the other one, because the other one, I think, like I said, this was like $50 in materials. With the other one, that's going to be twice as big and 4 times as heavy. Is probably going to be, I'll probably be into that for like $500 after I build it. So I want that one to be right, and I just made this to close that hole. I lined this up and then I welded it after it was lined up, and I just happened to use a nut because it fit in the hole nicely, and I just made this so that it closes it off and dust and stuff doesn't leak or get inside of the vise. And then the movable plate. But overall, I'm very happy with it. This thing, I did a couple of tests, and maybe I'll show a couple at the end of this video, but this thing generates a huge amount of crushing force, and it's very strong with the grip. I might even at some point try to install either a second set of jaws down here for really increasing the crushing strength on a load that's closer, so that it's not gonna, you know, want to bend or break this piece here, or maybe a set of pipe jaws in there so that you can put pipe in it. But pretty happy with it for a home built. So here it is, and I painted it with POR 15 because I think that'll hold up really well. This is just regular paint, but this has an incredibly strong grip, which I'm going to try to demonstrate here. You try that with a regular vise. That is a strong grip. Alright, you might not have been able to see in the last one, but I just want you to be able to see I am right up off the ground. And that's the end of, like, that's got to be 4 or 5 feet. I mean, this 1/2-inch plate steel is flexing, the vise is gripping. Success, in my opinion, yes, 5 feet. 250 pounds at 5 feet, that's like 1,250 pounds. I tried a longer bar just because I wanted to see what the tipping point was. Yeah. Well, I guess I need a better table.